All right, we are going to build RoBud's baseplate and connect the battery and the Raspberry Pi. For this part of the build, you're going to want your 4 battery brackets. Careful, they're not all exactly the same. There's 2 of each type. Your baseplate, the battery pack, and then the two battery brackets here. Then we'll want our Raspberry Pi to mount. For tools, for this, all we need is some little screwdrivers. I think we're only going to need Phillips for this. You'll want some brass standoffs. These are 2.5 millimeter brass standoffs. And a whole bunch of these handy dandy 2 millimeter self-tapping screws, kind with the pan head. And then you'll also want some that have the more traditional head on the top. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get these battery brackets on here. Now, in this setup I have, this is the back of RoBud and this is the front. So what we want to do, we can move these brackets out of the way, and we want to get these ones on here. So we're going to want to put these in the last holes available, spaced out so that they fit the battery here. So if I've got the battery here and we've got them in the last holes available, what we want to do is, you can see here, there's one hole where this notch is, and then we're going to put them in the ones right next to it. So let's get that started. And then let's do one for the other side. Now that I've got it screwed in, just to be safe, to make sure it's in the right place, just take the battery here and see if it fits in good and snug, and it does. And remember, this is the back, so we want to make sure that the USB ports, power ports, are coming out the back here. So that is good. And now we can put the brackets on the other side. So just take that out for a moment. And we'll do it over here. And we want these to line up, but again, go all the way to the end. I'll tighten them all up. And let's see how she fits. Not bad, good and snug, just the way we want. All right, so those battery brackets are done. Next, we'll move on to getting these guys and the Raspberry Pi set up. All right, let's take a look at these brackets. And so the way that this works is you'd want these holes in the Raspberry Pi to line up with these holes here, so that this right here is the left side of the robot, if you're thinking about it like a car, or if you're thinking about it like its head is in the front, so its left side is right here, and we want the Raspberry Pi to be on the left side as well, so that there is access to the ports here that it needs to reach. All right, so let's actually get these things attached to the brackets now. So again, we can just grab some screws here. And you want to use these screws and have it screw in here. And this will serve as the base for the rest of the electronics, as well as hold the battery in. Now, it can be a little tricky to get the screws to go in the right holes, because these 3D printed parts are not perfect, and the design is also less than perfect, but should go in. Just make sure it's going into the hole and not in between the battery and the bracket. I've done that accidentally a few times. Screw that down, and then let's screw this in here. Now let's get that in there. Okay, let's get the Raspberry Pi on here. We're gonna take these 6 millimeters standoffs here, and I'll put the screw end in there, and you can attach the bottoms either with a standoff, or you could do a nut under there, 2.5 millimeter nut. I'm gonna use a standoff here because I can grip it a little bit better, and that allows me to really just screw that in there well. There we go, that's one. All right, now if I did this right, I should be able to take the pie and turn it so that the back is facing the back, and take a look at this here, and that looks good. Now, of course, we also want to stand off the pie, so let's get some bigger standoffs here for the pie itself. Now, we want to make sure that the next thing goes higher than our USB ports here, so I'm going to use this guy. This one is 20 millimeters here, so we'll get this 20 millimeter standoff here, like this. And the pie is going to float a little bit on this side. Actually, for that, I would recommend getting some of these smaller standoffs here. And what we can do is stick this in here just so that it's steady. I'll do this on this other side too. Let's get this guy over here. That's nice. There we go. Okay, it's on there. Good. And again, let's get a nice 20 millimeter standoff here. I think this is one. Yeah. All right. Do that there. There we go. All right. Now the pie is on there. And last but not least, before I forget, let's finish off by putting these 20 millimeter standoffs here, so that you've got all these 4 standoffs on all sides, ready to go. The same height, just like that. All right, now this is ready to test out. Okay, to test this out, we're gonna want 2 cables. We're gonna want an HDMI regular size adapter to this mini HDMI adapter, and we're gonna want a good USB-A to USB-C adapter that has enough, can handle enough current to power the Raspberry Pi. So first thing I want to do is plug this in to my HDMI port, and over here I'm going to attach this to my external monitor. And of course, you want to make sure that your battery is fully charged before you try this. And we just would go into one of these 2 USB-A ports and plug into the USB-C power right here. And we see the Pi is turning on nicely. Okay, if everything is working, you should have RoBud's eyes up and looking around on your screen after a minute or 2. And then you'll know that everything worked. And you are ready to move on to the next step in building RoBud.